I don't even know how to start this. But today I am doing the, oh wow, I'm completely the install on a 350Z toe gain bracket. These guys right here, got the car in the air. There's not a single video on how to install this. I'm a little sick, so don't worry. There's not a single video or instruction manual on the FDF website, YouTube, anything, forums, no information about any of this stuff. So it's relatively simple, but I mean, it'd be nice to have a video, so I'm gonna make one. Hopefully be the first. Hopefully I don't forget about this and never make it. That's very typical, but I don't know why the audio was so grainy in the last clip. I hope it's not in this clip. But if you don't understand the general basics behind this kit, when you're drifting, essentially you want toe in the rear of the car to go faster, drive the car forward. The typical geometry of Nissans and a lot of cars is when the rear end compresses, the wheel has the natural geometry to toe out. So even if you do have a lot of toe in, that is going to decrease when you give the car gas and it compresses. And I like to run 5K springs in the rear, so it's very squishy in the back. So my rear end toes out a lot and it makes the car very washy. So to combat that in S chassis and stuff like that, I have one right here. To combat that, they relocate the toe bracket on the subframe itself, and by doing that it changes that toe out curve to be a toe in curve, which makes the car a lot faster in drift. I'm sure if you're this far into this project you already know about that, so I'm not going to go too crazy into depth because a lot of people make videos on that. But I'm going to make the install video. I have a knuckle right here. I'm going to mock up the driver's side on there, make it a little easier to see, and then I'll do it on the car. Alright, I have the driver's side bracket mocked up here. You can tell which side is driver or passenger because both brackets have these small, well, one large, one small hole. So those two holes line up with the e-brake cable and the little screw that holds the cable onto the knuckle. Inside your parking brake assembly, there is, I'll show this a little bit better later in the video, but you're going to have to smash out these two little studs inside. This is what your e-brake cable, your brake shoes sit on in the cable, or in the drum. That's where these two nuts and bolts go through. From that point, I am going to have to replace, you don't have to, it looks like, but you probably should replace that with the solid bushing that comes with the kit. That's the next nut and bolt is right in your typical, your regular toe arm. Now onto the actual toe arm itself. You are going to have to get the toe arm that FDF sells. I'm not quite sure how much longer or shorter. I assume it's shorter than the one that comes from, I have True Heart ones in there. It looks the same length, I'm not going to lie, but it's probably shorter. These are the holes that actually change that toe curve I was talking about. So this is the most aggressive one. This is probably the one I'm going to start on just so I see the gnarliest difference. And from there, you just work your way up. But this is where it goes onto the car. All right, as I'm going through and I am doing the passenger side off camera so that I can do the driver's side on camera, make it a little easier. The sun's going to be on that side. It's just going to be a lot easier to see. I am at this stage of having the parking brake off and everything. And I have the GK Tech dual caliper bracket, which is 8mm, or it comes with 8mm extended studs right here. And they are actually perfectly long enough with the shorter nylock nuts that FDF supplies. So if you don't have a dual caliper bracket, you are going to have to take your axle out and take your wheel hub off, smack those studs out and put these bolts in. Point being, I definitely recommend you just get at least the dual caliper bracket in your car, not the caliper, lines, hydro, nothing, just the bracket so that it comes with these extended studs so you don't have to do this again. That just made my life so much easier, I'm not gonna lie. This went from like a 2-day job to a 1-day job now because I know those axles are in there pretty good. I'm very stoked about that. If you do need a tutorial on how to get those studs out and get the axle off and wheel bearing, watch any GK Tech dual caliper bracket install or any dual caliper bracket install, like bolt-in dual caliper bracket, and that will tell you how. Alrighty, it's about 5 o'clock. I started at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, but I had to go to the store and get this little like ball joint press thing. But I have got one side completely done. This is the side that I wanted to do off camera, so I knew everything that needed to be done. Whoops. And I'm glad I did, because You need to grind down a couple things, and it took me a little bit to figure out the ball joint press. So I'm going to do the driver's side on camera now. Or on the driver's side, I took the calipers and the brake disc off just to save time. That's pretty basic. 19 millimeters, pull the brake disc off. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do, there is a 17 millimeter holding this toe arm to the knuckle. Crack the 17 millimeter off, drop your toe arm. The next step is the 19 on the subframe, 19 millimeter, just take the toe arm out. Okay, so the next step is to actually replace the bushing in the knuckle. Toe arms out. You are going to need a ball joint press. You can mangle it out if you want, but this is the easiest way. Bought it today for like, maybe 90 bucks at Harbor Freight. All you need is a 27 mil socket, a 36 mil socket. Let's see if it focuses. The 36 mil goes on this side like that, and then the 27 millimeter, at least the Duralast socket that I have, sits perfectly right on the race of the bushing. So this presses it out perfectly, and I don't know, works for me. So let me see if I can set my camera up somewhere and get a good angle of this. All right, I'm sorry. This is unfortunately the best angle I can get by myself. So this is the basic concept of what you want. You want the 27 socket right here, 36 right here. I'm going to put the 22 mil on the back of the impact. Hopefully, yeah, so that'll happen every once in a while. I don't know, this side is a little tougher than the other side. This is the point where on this side, I'm gonna have to torch it and hit it with a hammer, but it is like 95% of the way out.
Since the knuckles are flipped essentially, this part of everything, like this knuckle, is like on the other side. So
Passenger side is easier in this install. I let the blowtorch sit on this for about 30 seconds to a minute. See if we can just hammer this puppy out. Okay, this is pretty funny. I'm gonna have to take this bolt out to get my socket off. I promise this did not happen on the driver's side, and this is not the end of the world, but shit happens. All right, now the bushing is out. This is optional, but take a blowtorch, heat this up, and then you want to put the new bushing in. If you get this hot enough, it will just slip in. That's what she said. My knuckle's painted blue. It's not just doing that. I caught my axle boot on fire, just a little bit. It's okay. Yeah, there we go. So just literally hit that bitch in, and it'll go right in. The next part of the install is taking the brake shoe assembly off. Get the parking brake cable out of the knuckle. So to do that, just move just like that. These both take a flathead. Just spin them until they give you pressure and come out. There we go. What I like to do is set my rotor upside down and put all the brake shoe parts in there because they can be really easy to lose. You can do this one-handed. So you want to take that apart. This guy might fall out on you. It is out of this cylinder right here, which goes in between those guys. This part can fall out, but don't change the amount of threads on this. From that point, take the top spring out, set that aside. The springs do look different, so don't worry about losing those. There's a bottom spring in there. The best way to do this is grab one of the brake shoes, pull it down, and just twist. Everything should fall out. So the way to check, make sure your orientation of these is correct, there will be a little wear mark up top here. That's how you know which one is your top. Oh, and the spring stayed in here. Like you see, a little wear mark. As you see, The springs are both different, so don't worry about getting those mixed up. Set that one there, and you're good. So now from this point, there's this mechanism in here. You do want to pay attention which way it folds out. So from this way, the hinge is on my right. So pull this out. There's a little pin in there. Shake this until it falls out. And like I said, the hinge was on my right. So I'm going to keep that like that. Make sure you don't lose that little pin. Now, we're at the back of the knuckle, 14 millimeter, that holds the brake cable, e-brake cable on. That puppy comes out. And pull this out, just like that. Clean that up a little bit. I recommend putting this bolt right back in there. Again, at the back of the knuckle, if you remember, I had to take this nut off to get the bushing out, but it is two 17 millimeters on the back. I know that's really bad, but all right, that's out. All right, now I don't know if you remember, but I was talking about knocking the studs out on this piece right here. I don't have to do that because I have the GK Tech bolt-on dual caliper bracket. Like I said, if you have a dual caliper bracket, you probably have those extended studs or a bolt already in there. But if you don't, just go ahead and watch a GK Tech dual caliper bracket install. They do show this part, and it's the same concept for these bolts right here. However, I'm just going to use the nylock nut right on the back of these studs. Now we can take the actual bracket itself and put it onto our knuckle. On the passenger side, just since these are handmade, I did have to grind this down right here just a little bit so that it would not rub on the knuckle. All right, and now at the back of the knuckle, you just want to put the bracket up into the toe arm, put that bolt in. Make sure you have a washer right there. Now you put a washer and the nylock nuts on the inside of that. I should have said this before, but you probably saw from the back this was pushed forward. So now that pushes right through the bracket. I can take these two nylock nuts. Alright, now the bracket is fully on the car. Thankfully, every piece of hardware they give you on both sides is a 19 millimeter. So just put a 19 mil right on one side, socket on the other. Make sure you tighten everything pretty evenly too. Oh, this is dying. Wow. Nope, we're hand wrenching it today. Okay, so I have a 3/8 torque wrench with a 19 on it. Don't need that little extension. I have a 3/8 torque wrench with a 19 on it, set to 40 foot-pounds. That's what I'm gonna put these to, just because they're nylock. They don't need to be insane. Need a wrench on one side. There we go. The next step, take your tow arm, pop the zip ties off, and wiggle it into the subframe. Once you have it in the subframe, you want to put your bolt right through there. All right, once you've got your tow arm in the knuckle with your lockout washer, just push it up into the bracket. I'm gonna take a little bit of convincing. Now that tow arm is up in there, I'm just gonna torque these both to 40 foot-pounds, just like I did everything else. So, alrighty. Once you've got all your arms torqued, double, triple check everything. Just reassemble your parking brake shoes and all that. It's the complete reverse process of what I showed you earlier, so just skip back to that and then just do it in reverse. It's pretty easy. All right, next step, put your calipers back on. Do not forget to Loctite your bolts. Very important. Alrighty, calipers back on, torque, Loctited, everything is good. An easy way to set your alignment, just eyeball, is look down the line of your pinch weld and then align up your brake disc with that. So I gave it a little bit toe in on either side. Hopefully it gets a little bit more drastic as the car compresses. It looks super cool under the car. Cannot wait to see how well it works. That's the majority of the install. Other than this, you just need to put your wheels on, go get an alignment and drive. So thank you very much for watching. If there's anything missing from the video, I'll put it in right now, like just informational. But yeah, thank you for watching. And that was the 350Z FDF rear toe game bracket install.